It's the first Sunday school of June 2023. Sounds like something I would have heard in a science fiction movie as a child. Look what we have here. Got a couple maps here. Roman Palestine. Scales in Roman miles. See the Dead Sea. See all the cities. See landmarks, things like that. And then here is the close-up, more of the area right around the Sea of Galilee. All of this comes from the new edition of An Accidental Christ. I know you're tired of me talking about that this is coming out and hope you get it and order it and everything, which I certainly hope you do. But now it is appearing in people's mailboxes. And if you've ordered it, you're already reading it. So anyway, if you haven't got it, I hope you get it. I'm going to read a couple things about it to maybe whet your appetite a little bit. Oh, incidentally, it's from the good folks at Llewellyn. And I'm getting ready for what is technically the world event book launch of it on the official publication date of, or the release date of next Thursday, June 8th, at my local, literally my local. I could walk, I rode my little tricycle there, it's so close. The East Village Bookshop here in Sacramento. And they're kind enough, they got posters and everything. I'm very excited about that. I'm going to read just a couple little things because it's Sunday school. I've already been doing interviews about the book and kind of explaining where I'm coming from. It's a novel, okay? I confess it's a novel, and it came out in 2007 in a much abbreviated form to more or less get it officially published, if not expecting it to sell, but to be officially published, so it could be considered as source material to be adapted for film projects. And but this is a much expanded version of that with new material, many frustrating things left unsaid in that first draft are now said. But anyway, and you might wonder where all of this comes from. And in the introduction, I'm not going to read the whole introduction. Please don't think I'm going to do that. But this is introduction to the 2023 updated and revised edition. Regarding the Clopassarian manuscripts, background history and provenance of source materials. Under the heading Mount Carmel Scrolls. In 1949, two Bedouin shepherd boys seeking shelter at the foot of Mount Carmel, in what is today northern Israel, discovered a common clay amphora, partially buried under a rough outcropping. The mouth of the vessel was sealed with beeswax and wrapped tightly with goatskin straps. After breaking the seal, they found within 3 parchment scrolls of obvious antiquity. They attempted to unravel the largest of the 3, only to discover the fragility of the document prevented further inspection. Hoping their discovery might be of some value, They carried the amphora and its contents to Joppa and showed them to Abab Ibrahim, a local dealer of antiquities. Ibrahim examined the broken fragments from the largest of the scrolls and recognized the writing to be a form of archaic Greco-Aramaic. It was penned in a style commonly used in formal documents of first-century Judea. Paying the boys the equivalent of, I believe it was $16, he took possession of the amphora and scrolls and brought them to Dr. Constantine Zuriak of the Damascus University, who immediately recognized the potential importance of the material. Zuriak arranged for the scrolls to be safely unrolled, deciphered, and transcribed by a visiting team of archaeologists from the University of Copenhagen, who examined and tested them thoroughly. It was soon determined that all 3 scrolls were indeed genuine first-century documents. More importantly, it was clear to Dr. Zuriak and his team that the material was of significant historical importance, as portions of it appeared to have been personally authored, dictated, or commissioned by an influential and well-known first-century Jewish nobleman, Clopas ben Heli. Clopas was the half-brother of Joseph ben Heli, father of the martyred first-century teacher and holy man Jesus ben Joseph of Nazareth. While it's immediately obvious the bulk of the scroll's narrative is not written in the first-person voice of Jesus' uncle Clopas, researchers are in agreement that the sections bearing the titles Prologue of Clopas and Epilogue of Clopas were indeed personally dictated by Clopas ben Heli. The remaining material, while obviously written by a third-person third-person narrative voice, nevertheless displays evidence of ben Heli's supervisorial guidance and was clearly constructed upon his personal descriptions and narratives. The importance of the Clopassarian material cannot be overestimated. Unlike pseudo-epigraphic New Testament Gospels, which were written many years after the death of the holy man and teacher, the Mount Carmel scrolls represent contemporaneous first-hand eyewitness narrative of events of the life of Jesus, written by a blood relative of the man himself. Okay. That's the initial one. There were others that came later. As a matter of fact, 3 more sets were brought to light within a 2-year period. And I talk about I lump them together as Clopassarian codices. The first was the Vatican Codex, Confessio Clopas, which is just a very fragmented thing and of late origin. Then the Egyptian scrolls were found in Egypt by laborers excavating a first-century Therapeutae hospital on the shores of Lake Mareotis near Alexandria. And Egyptian scrolls were examined by researchers at Cairo University, who, after testing the ink, parchment, and traces of insect larvae, determined the provenance of the documents to be contemporaneous to or within 100 years of the Mount Carmel scrolls. Okay, I'm just going to skip over all of this. Then there was the Toulousian duplicate, or the true original. In the spring of 1952, workmen repairing a collapsed sewer in Toulouse, France, found an intact Roman column together with its near-perfectly preserved Corinthian capital. When the capital was removed, the column was found to be hollow. It contained a copper cylinder within which was sealed the 4th and arguably the most complete of the Clopassarian codices. Okay. Then there's a little section called about the scribe, and so setting the whole thing up. Okay. If you've ever asked yourself or stopped to ask yourself a question when hearing this story that we've been told in Sunday school all of our lives, Roman Catholic and Protestant kids anyway, if you went to Sunday school. It seems like a pretty straightforward narrative. He was born of a poor carpenter's family. There was a miraculous thing. For some reason, three wise men came from a long way away. They're following a star, and there's all these strange little miracles surrounding a narrative of a seemingly poor child that had a really big entrance when he was born, and then we don't know anything about him until he's 12 years old at least, and we hear all these different things. And when it comes to the crucifixion and things like that, it really gets crazy because everyone's calling him King of the Jews, and they're saying, yeah, he does miracles and stuff, but he's King of the Jews. Not only that, but he really pissed off the religious establishment, and he pissed off the government establishment. So there's lots of unanswered questions. And why were his supporters seemingly so influential and well-connected? In particular, the man that we've come to know as Joseph of Arimathea. Now, it was Joseph of Arimathea's land that Jesus was crucified on. The tomb where he was entombed and resurrected was on Joseph of Arimathea's land. He was wealthy. He was a member of the Sanhedrin, okay, which is like he was a senator, a religious and political senator. He was well connected with Pontius Pilate. Now, Pontius Pilate, in a confused sort of way, even in the gospel story from the four gospels, seemed to kind of want to let him go. Like, hey, you guys don't. There's lots of unanswered questions, especially when we find out more about what was really happening in first century Roman-occupied Judea. And the fact that it was highly likely that Joseph, the humble carpenter father, was a blood relation going all the way back to King David, and the family was more like royalty. Certainly nobility, Jewish nobility on steroids. He might not have been a carpenter. He was more like a major construction mogul, importers of lumber and things. They were filthy rich. And his mother was also royalty, only coming from another tribe, Benjamin. They go to great lengths in the Gospels to itemize precisely the lineage of Jesus's mother and father, establishing their royal bloodline in such a way as their marriage would represent, a child of their marriage would represent the reunification of the bloodlines of the two most important kings of Israel, or at least legendary kings, Saul and David. We talk about that a lot in An Accidental Christ. There comes a scene early on where Joseph of Arimathea meets with the young man, Jesus, who is just more or less being informed of his hereditary position and informed that he could be in a position to be the figurehead king should a coup occur. The same coup that Jesus was crucified for being a part of. And let's see. Joseph returned to his seat and drew it closer to Jesus. "You are a well-educated man. I have no doubt you are aware of the legendary kingdoms of David and Solomon, if they existed at all, bore little semblance to the fanciful scriptural accounts. We both know that much of what is commonly believed to have been the golden age of ancient Israel is fiction, a fantasy spun by the melancholy poets of the Babylonian captivity, a dream to bring hope to the diverse captives of that cruel era. When great Cyrus conquered Babylon, he found it necessary to expeditiously rid himself of our ancestors and the other slaves Nebuchadnezzar had captured from foreign lands." And then Jesus' uncle Clopas, which he really had an Uncle Clopas, he interrupts. "After 2 generations, our forefathers had become too expensive to feed and too numerous to house," Uncle Clopas laughingly interjected. Joseph didn't acknowledge the interruption. Darius, Cyrus's successor, feared cultural unrest if he were to attempt to assimilate this throng into Babylonian society. And he certainly didn't want to bring them to Persia. So he conspired with the holy man Nehemiah and the scribe Ezra to create a single identity for these poor souls. In order to give them a future, it was first necessary to create for them a past. So, to explain the diversity of their languages, dialects, and customs, Ezra convinced them that each group sprang from one of 12 distinct tribes of the mythical Hebrews. Then Clopas interrupts again. Thus was Moses drawn not from the ancient imaginary bulrushes of the Nile, but from the very real imaginations of good men who wished to free an assortment of people possessing no cultural memory whatsoever. Joseph smiled warmly at Clopas. "Thank you, Clopas. Yes, exactly. The children of the captivity eagerly accepted this vision, and with great fervor believed with all their hearts that they were the children of the mythical patriarchs. The scribe Ezra gathered scraps of local legends and myths that still echo in the minds of the various tribes and retold the stories as the 5 books of Moses. To further bolster their self-identity of the tribes, King Darius freed them to return to their, quote, homeland. an area that was ruled by no king and defended by no army. He gave them Palestine, if they promised immediately to leave Babylon. Uncle Clopas cleared his throat and stood up. It was obvious he had rehearsed what he was about to say. He delivered his words with the accentuation of a schoolmaster. There was indeed an exodus, my lords, but the exodus was from Babylon, not from Egypt. In a word, my lords, our magnificent religion and the nations of Israel and Judea are the children of a dream, the awkward consequence of expedient Persian politics. Jesus knew what these men said was true. Of all the cults, the Carmelites, Jesus was of the Carmelites, had no delusions concerning the secret history of the faith. The room remained silent for a moment. Then Joseph of Ramtha, that's later translated Arimathea, Joseph of Ramtha, it's an area. It's like a prefecture. Joseph of Ramtha spoke directly to Jesus. However, you, my Lord, are both real and fantasy. History and myth unite in your blood. You are not only a real king, but also king of a dream. The rightful heir to a kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. That is taken from both of those excerpts from An Accidental Christ. New, out there, release this week. Just in time for your Sunday reading or your summer reading. Please put it on your list. Ask Constance. I've been working on this story on and off since about 1985, and it finally has gotten to a place, along with the encouragement from my good friends at Llewellyn, it's finally gotten to a place where I really want to share it with you. So that's my shameless plug for Sunday school. And I hope you have a great rest of the weekend. Sunday school is dismissed, and we'll see you tomorrow, hopefully. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.